Hey there, Georgie here with Ukraine Matters. We're continuing our deep dive into the Russian economics that has been ongoing for the last couple of videos, and even in the last stream we talked extensively about the Russian economics. And today we're going to be touching another aspect that is extremely relevant, specifically talking about the National Wealth Fund. A national wealth fund for Russia, to put it in simple terms, is the Russian war chest. Initially, this fund has been created to be there during the times of trouble for the Russian Federation. It was basically accumulated over the years, taking money from the development of the Russian people and putting it into the wealth fund for the nation, essentially giving Russians a perspective that they're living so poor and their standards are so bad because the country takes care of them, and they're actually preparing some kind of a money saved up for the time when something bad might happen. Well, in reality, this was obviously Putin's war chest that he prepared when his confrontation with Ukraine and also us in the Western world would actually happen. And finally, we are here. Now, we've talked extensively that 2025 is going to be the year at which we will absolutely come down to the fact that Russia is going to run out of money. So they will not have their war chest available. And we have the newest data coming out specifically of the state of the National Wealth Fund. And it went down significantly at the end of December when Russians needed to check their budget and align the numbers. And obviously they're aligning their numbers by taking the money from the National Wealth Fund to cover for their budget deficit that was at the end of the year. So all of the good data that Russia was showing during the last couple of months, arguably good data, very, very arguably, but still, has now been covered by this piggy bank being cracked open. And I want to dig into this one a little bit because you might look at this number of 11.88 trillion rubles and think that, wow, this is a lot. This is really big, especially if you're looking at the number in dollars, which is $116 billion. Well, $117 billion. That's impressive. Well, the problem with that number is that this is the total amount of that national welfare fund. It has both liquid assets, liquid meaning they can be easily turned to money, and a non-liquid assets, usually parts and shares of companies. And those non-liquid assets, they are probably not going to be sold to anyone else. So Russia cannot really make money of those non-liquid assets. Just to put into perspective what is approximately in that non-liquid assets, we're talking about Russian railways, the control package of the Russian railways, the control package of Gazprom, the control package of Rostec, the Russians' main and pretty much only big weapons producer, so Russian military basically producers. So, and things like that. That means that this non-liquid part of the National Welfare Fund is not something that Russia can really sell and continue being some kind of a state. This is definitely not what Putin would want to do. And if we're talking specifically on just the liquid assets, then suddenly the number goes all the way down to $37.5 billion, which is not a lot at all. It is actually just 2% of the Russian GDP. To explain it in simple terms is that the amount of money that Russia has in their piggy bank for the war chest is just enough to cover just one more year of a budget deficit. So if Russia will continue this year the way that they will and they have been doing the previous year, then they will have only 2025 to cover for with their budget deficit. And then they will have no money whatsoever in it, just gone, absolutely empty. And what you need to get is that not that the Russian economy is going to collapse, but that growth that Russia has been doing so far, specifically growth in the military sector, that they were able to build these new factories, employ new workers, build more production, was in a large part, is taking the money from the piggy bank and putting that money into the Russians' weapons manufacturing. That's it. That was the absolute majority, the bulk of the Russian growth of the military sector and how it was financed. So, if Russian piggy bank is empty, that means no more growth for the military sector. That's it. So if you ever were wondering when Russia will finally run out of money to continue investing in their military, Russia ran out of money. Basically, they did. Now, obviously, they still have a year to go, technically. But I'm going to argue that there is actually a huge discussion right now that is happening in Russia with specifically, can they even spend that money? Because this money is literally the saving box if things really hit the fan. So if Russian government, Russian country is going to start collapsing, then the money to prevent that collapse should have been coming from this national welfare fund. Russia is already beyond the obligatory minimum that they needed to keep in that national welfare fund. They are already scraping the bottom of the barrel here. So it actually could be considered by this point that in all reasonable terms, Russia is out of money in their piggy bank. Whatever money they're going to have, whatever budget they're going to have, whatever they're going to do, it needs to be balanced out some other ways. And that means only one thing, that state of affairs for civilian sectors, business, just regular civilians in Russia is going to get worse and worse and worse because Russian government will be squeezing everything else that they can just to make sure that the military gets their share. And because Putin really wants to continue this war. While already now Russians are seeing the effect of inflation hitting their pockets directly. For example, here, there is a measurement that is being used in Russia to track the prices, which is the prices of the food basket. So what is the basket that a regular Russian citizen would eat and consume during the year? And then they would consider what kind of products go into this basket, and then what is the price of the products in this basket and how these prices have risen up. So in this chart, prices today, specifically for Siren, have calculated that a produce basket for the Russians in this year have risen 21.76%. And if you want to follow the things yourself, there is this website from the prices today. It is in Russian, but you can auto-translate, and you can actually yourself just go into this website, find out which produce you want. For example, like cheese, let's say some kind of a soft cheese. And then you can select, well, what about like this mozzarella cheese? And then you can say, can you show me in a yearly price of mozzarella? And they are reporting on this. And there is almost all projects, like the main projects, if you really want to track this, there you go, educational website for you. Just very quickly, guys, I don't feel super well today, so I cut out a lot of sections that I wanted to talk about because it was really bad. But we're going to continue with the video, so sorry for it being a bit short today. Now, guys, I don't even know how to start talking about this one. So we've heard a lot of reports that Russia is sending everything, and we've talked a lot about the Russian military being degraded to a state that is completely unsustainable, that is no military would fight in that state. And I've showed you countless pictures and videos of the equipment of Russians. But another aspect that oftentimes I don't cover because it's covered by like Russians talking on the video, and it's a pain in the ass to translate. But maybe I will start translating it because we are seeing more and more. I don't even know how to describe this. So what you're going to see right before your eyes right now is a video, not Russians being captured just walking somewhere in the field. No, this is Russians moving towards Ukrainian positions, and they are essentially storming, supposedly, Ukrainian positions. And it baffles the mind. Like, how do you even start explaining? Yes, you see it right. It is two Russians on the crutches that are slowly making their way across the field towards Ukrainian positions. This is Russian military in 2025. I don't even know how to describe. I cannot show you the rest of the video. You can see it in the Discord. Like, we have a video exchange page there. But what do you even, like, how do you even explain more than what you see here by Russian soldiers being forced to attack Ukrainian positions while they're clearly wounded and on crutches? And then people are answering is like, no, Russia is totally winning, my man. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. But obviously, we need to cover the equipment as well. And here we have a new example. Now, a lot of people have been saying that potentially Russia wants to save up on some of their equipment, and that's why they're using this civilians equipment. But the problem of this image, if you will see, is that this is a very cheap, very bad car, very shitty car, to put it bluntly. But on top of this car, there is a massive electronic warfare component, which is most definitely not cheap. And electronic warfare is needed everywhere on Frontline. So no, whenever you're considering, it's like, maybe it's because they just want to save up on certain things for certain tasks. No. They're running their expensive and deficit electronic warfare equipment on their crappy cars. That's how bad it is. And then this picture really captured my attention. Now, this is from Ukrainian side, and Ukrainians are using these hexicopters. Like, it's a big 6-rotor drone that is big enough, you know, like he can pick up and lift a man even if needed. And they have been beforehand using certain ammunition for that drone that was basically repurposed Russian Soviet ammunition, mostly like explosives from the RPG rounds. But now they started 3D printing big pieces of drop-down ammunition also for that drone, and the responses to these have been pretty well, because in these 3D printed ones they can stuff a lot more explosives than beforehand. So big booms incoming for the Russians, which is obviously great. And talking about big booms, the biggest of the booms happened just recently in our fundraiser. Guys, we crossed over 100,000 and we're almost to 101,000 in our support for Ukrainian armed forces. Specifically, this support, I always forgot to say that it goes to the unmanned systems forces of Ukraine. So all of the things that we covered in recent days, and you might see in different media, that the Russians are seeing their oil production facilities being on fire just recently. Absolute dominant majority of it is big thanks to the unmanned systems forces that are making those strikes. So we are actually working with these guys and helping specifically to set the Russian oil refineries on fire. What a great cause that is. So if you can, please participate in a fundraiser. And I will end today's video, and I will leave you today with a video from Ivan from Car for Ukraine, and he will talk about the cars that have been already purchased. And notably, another message that I also want to say is that Car for Ukraine not only works with donations here, but if you own some kind of old car that requires some kind of refitting or some repairs, please reach out also to me to ukrainematters2022@gmail.com, and I'll get you in contact with Ivan. So if you have a car to donate, they can pick up, maybe repair it, what so. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I love you. Slava Ukraini, and I will see you next time.
These two beautiful cars. Since the beginning of December, we had a great offer from Georgie, from Ukraine Matters, to raise money for 25 vehicles. That's a bold ask. It's a bold mission, but we're on the way there. As you can see, number 3, pickup truck from this campaign, Life is the Greatest Value, is going to one of the contacts that Georgie gave. The person is protecting our border, and that's gonna go to him, also armored, because life is the greatest value and we want to make sure our soldiers are safe here. The fourth one, beautiful van that we bought in Germany. It's very fresh, it's 2017. Our campaigns are not only about defeating Russia, it's also about protecting our people, and this van will contribute massively into protecting our cities. It's going to be refitted additionally inside, whatever soldiers needs to have installed there. It will be there. So Ukraine matters. Georgie, thank you massively to your community. I'm going to drive this car actually personally to the soldiers, and we'll get some content for you as well. But for now, let me also say a couple of words for these people. Truck number 3 contributors from December 11 to December 14 approximately. Everyone who decided to stay anonymous are not here, and everyone who contributed, we wanted to pay back, and you can find your name here, because that car is actually every little bit of your donation. That's how we get this car, and the same thing is applied to this van. Approximately from December 14 to December 18, these are the people who contributed to the campaign, and that's what gave us funds to buy this 4th truck, which is a van, but right, as long as we have the car. So massive thank you all to Georgia Ukraine Matters, to your community. You do an amazing job. Let's keep up with that.